Welcome to The Space Between. On this episode, I'm joined by Christina Walker. Christina is a nurse of over 40 years and a student of energetics from the age of 19. Together, we discuss energy and its impact on everything around and within us. Join us as we connect through conversation. This is The Space Between. Hi, everyone. It's Allison again, coming to you with the Space Between podcast. So excited for this episode today with a very dear friend and, dare I say, mentor in ways, Christina Walker. Christina, welcome to the Space Between.
Well, thank you for the invite.
Thank you for coming. You have no idea how much it means to me that you're here, and we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about our background, and our theme today is energy. Energy.
Yes.
There's a lot of talk about energy.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to really make sure that we highlight all of the things that are important to us in our path, in our individual and sometimes collective paths. And, you know, the way we view the world in this space between has really changed. And I'm excited to hear from you what this looks like for you specifically in the space between. So again, I always like to start with the intention. The intention of our time together is not only to talk between friends and have an open and really honest dialogue and conversation, but my hope for the listeners out there is that you can connect back to yourself and the things in your life and the people in your life and the relationships that you've built. So Christina, energy. So we always start with the definition of energy, and then I'm going to introduce you and we'll talk about your path.
Okay.
So we use the Oxford Dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I did that. I just sounded more regal in a way. So the Oxford Dictionary actually had 7 different definitions for energy because there's a lot of different ways to think about energy. But I felt that this one was probably the best. So it's a form or instance of activity or operation, a spiritual or ethereal force, held to be present in all living things and underlying various forms of alternative medicines and therapy. I like how they threw that in. So Christina, again, tell us a little bit about, who you are and your path. You and I have known each other since I was 15, which is amazing. And I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for being there for me when some of the toughest times of my life, and we're going to get into it and talk about it. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you, and then we'll really get into the theme of today.
Okay. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse now for something like 43 years.
It's not possible.
Long time. Yeah. And my path and journey in life really took a drastic turn at the age of 19. You're going about high school, going to college, and God, the universe, decided that I should experience a near-death experience.
At 19?
At 19. I was in a very bad car accident and had some loss, both with the people in the car with me and my own personal injuries, loss. I felt like I lost my life at 19 because I wasn't the same person anymore. When I woke up from my coma, I actually left my body and was presented before. I can't tell you what or who or what, but the energy was saying to me, you can come with us now. And I was like, no, I'm too young. I want to have children. I want to get married. I want to experience life. And you actually get a choice when you die.
Wow.
And they said, okay, you can go back, But a little bit of a contract's made at that point too when you go back. And my contract was to bring heaven on earth because I've experienced heaven and I was to bring it back to earth for other people to feel.
Wow.
So when there were two angels, walked me back to my body, they said, okay, you can go back into your body. And I saw my body and I said, I can't re-enter that body. I mean, it's in too much pain. There is too much pain in that body. And so they were like, well, your choice. Again,
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Wow.
Everything in life is about choices.
Absolutely.
So I kind of really never fully re-entered my body.
Wow.
And people will say, what does that mean? And so we are a physical self, and we have a matrix, an energetic matrix that lays over us and meets at the level of our hormones of the different organs, like say the pancreas, the insulin, it's in the third center of your body. The pituitary is your sixth. So each organ has a gland and that hormone. And so that's how the communication is through the chemicals from the energy world to the physical world.
Right.
And so with that, you then also have an etheric body around you. And I just hovered over here in the ethereal world. I didn't come back in here. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to live this way, but I know there's something more than the physical world that meets the eyes. And that's where my journey began. I had to find out what that was all about, what I felt, what I experienced. And that was in 1974. No one was talking about this.
I was just going to bring that up. This wasn't...
No
one. And let me ask you a quick question. Were you afraid to tell people about what you had experienced?
I told just my friends.
Right.
I did, it's interesting. I did tell my mom, and she wanted to send me to a psychiatrist, but I knew that wasn't going to help because it was beyond psychology.
You inherently knew because of what you had witnessed.
But yeah, exactly.
And you knew it wasn't just mental.
No,
At that point, you were like, no, this is not.
This is something else,
Right.
But again, nobody was talking about the energy, body, energy, self, energy, anything.
Right. It's hot now.
Oh, it's hot.
It wasn't hot in 1974.
Not in 74. So I took, and this is for anyone that wants to learn about it. I took myself to the bookstores. Same. And I went to the different sections of the bookstore to see who was really writing about it and talking about it. And of course, Indian philosophy was talking about it. I studied that. Then I went to American Indians. They study it. So I went to different cultures that incorporate that part of in their lives.
Right.
And that's how I started my journey.
It's amazing. And first of all, that experience of the car accident and then the curiosity that followed. I mean, I know we're going to get more into that, but I'm so glad you decided to come back. Let me be the first to say that on this podcast. I really appreciate you sharing that because it is trauma, big T trauma.
Yes, it's in your cells.
Yes.
And that I'll talk about that part of the physical body dealing with that kind of a it's twofold.
Yeah.
It was a violent act at the time because it was a head-on collision and boom, I was out. And then there's the part of the energetics, then learning and feeling that. So there's, it's in your cells, but yet it's in the energetic space. So it's okay, how do we move it out of the cells of the physical body to have it equal the intensity, love, and force of what I experienced in the energetic world.
Right. And to have gone through such a physical trauma and then be I guess for the lack of a better word, birthed into this new realm.
Yes.
I mean, obviously that's where we come from. So let's be clear.
Yes, exactly.
We're not.
Yeah, but we
to
forget-
be in the third dimensional construct and then be birthed into
5 and beyond.
and just going like, wait, what? So one of the things I wanted to mention is you taught me about the energy body. So my path started actually with acupuncture. I laid on an acupuncture table and started seeing colors. And I remember I called the practitioner over and I'm like, is this normal? She's like, yes, welcome to the other realm, right? She was so sweet. Her name was Tracy. I'll never forget her. But my husband had gone through a very serious depression. My mother had been through a very serious depression, which you had helped with as well. And you taught me how to go back into my body to really bring the energy into the physical body. And I think it's really important for people to understand that that's so much of what is happening out there right now. You know, we have this physical self, we have this energetic self, and when they're not in concert, there's a lot of problems that happen, both individually and collectively, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I think as far as the narratives around energy, and we'll get, you know, more back into your story in a minute, but it is a hot topic now. It is kind of like the cool thing to talk about, energy and, you know, spirituality, and people are waking up to something else that we can't see and touch. And I think a lot of us now know that there is something more. And whatever that path looks like for you, it was a very traumatic and sort of tragic event, right? For me, it was through trying to help navigate these really difficult times with the people in my life so that I could be okay, you know? As far as what are some of the nuances or kind of misunderstandings that people have about energy? Because obviously, like, you light a match, right? That's a form of energy. But even as we're talking here today, there's energy moving. I mean, everything is energy.
Yes.
Right? And I think that is a little misunderstood. So can you talk to us a little bit about, you know, what really is energetics and what really is energy?
Well, we are 99.99% energy. Every living thing is energy. And as the energy goes on a spectrum from very high vibration, which is a frequency, which is just information. So energy is a frequency that provides information, all the way down to matter, which is the slowest form of energy. So therefore, we are still part of this energy spectrum, and energy can never be destroyed. That's a physical law.
Yep.
So, okay, if I'm physically, I die, right? But then where do I go energetically? That was always my question. I mean, I know where I went, but I also still have a little bit of trepidation of really when I die, where do I go?
Right, because you never went, you came back.
Never, right, exactly.
Right. And isn't that the age-old question of life? Where we're so concerned about death that we're like, wait, what's going to happen? We don't even live because we're so concerned about what happens in death. And to all the listeners out there, it's a beautiful thing when you find your path and you realize that that really isn't true. There is no death.
Right.
There's a physical death.
Right.
No one's getting out alive of this dimension, but
yeah,
there's a freedom in that too.
Yeah. Where does the energy go?
Yeah.
Where do I energetically go? So everyone has energy, and no one's special. Like, you know, oh, I'm clairvoyant and I can see, and everybody's clairvoyant. Everybody is clairsentient. So clairvoyance is to see, clairaudience is to hear, clairsentience is to feel, and then you have for smelling and tasting, right?
Okay.
Same senses physically, you have it also energetically, and everybody has it. The only difference is, are you aware?
Interesting. And the degree to which you continue to, I don't want to say practice it is the wrong word, but the more you're open to it and the more you tap into it, seems like maybe that's when it gets stronger.
Well, it's all about your own inner self-awareness.
Right.
So it's the more you practice within yourself, then and really feel your energy body. And it's like when you walk into a room and you feel something like, or you're talking to someone and it just doesn't feel right. That's your energy system telling you, okay, you know, and
something's
then,
up.
Yeah. And then for you to physically listen. So there's two worlds, the physical world and the energetic world. And like you said before, the goal is for them to live in harmony and create your life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's true. I mean, that's the thing. Bringing them together, people are constantly trying to find peace. I need peace. I need peace.
We need peace.
It's right. It's very 60s. Peace begins with me. It does.
It does. And right
it's
now,
not BS. I mean,
you see going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
The world really needs peace.
Yep.
I mean, I was at a seminar with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I just came back. Love him.
He's wonderful.
He is.
We'll put him in the show notes.
Yeah. And he has the ability. He's been on the same path as me. And he ended up with creating this system of your physical brain being able to work in cohesion with your energy body. And I have not been able to find anybody to do that. Christine Shank, who I studied with, taught me how to come back into my body.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm back in my body, but how do I get the two of them to work together in harmony? And that's what I've been working on now. And, inner peace. If everyone could really strive for inner peace, we'd have a different world. I mean, the war in Israel broke out when we were there.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh. And then you just think about all the wars in the world right now.
Yeah.
Why can't we just live in a state of peace? The world would be so much different. And there's a saying that says, if you want to see the change, it needs to begin with you.
Be the change.
You have to be the change. So then that brings us to taking the self-responsibility.
And accountability, which is a big thing we're going to talk about on this podcast and other themes. It's a big right now.
Of finding your own inner peace.
Out of victimhood, which is where most people live. And Dr. Joe talks about that all the time.
Blaming this, blaming that, blaming this.
You're a victim of everything that happens to you, right? You wake up in the morning, you have the same day. You're going to go to the same job. You're going to see the same person, right? Victim, victim, victim.
And it's a pattern and a thought that creates the energy in your body.
Yep.
So, and then that thought creates the emotions, and then those emotions, which is energy and motion, keeps running through your system, and then you attract that or you project that, and that becomes your life. That's your pattern. That's your life. And I have to tell you, I lived in that since I've been 19. This victimhood, you know. And this morning, I did a meditation this morning, one of Dr. Joe's, and it was the first time that I ever felt, because life is about experiences. The heart knows, the mind thinks.
Yep.
I felt my accident was a gift.
Oh, that was today?
Today.
Oh, my God. That's beautiful.
Because of that experience of knowing that deep sense of love that is out there, and then to be able to bring that into yourself. I was
into
definitely
your cells.
Yeah, into yourselves. Yeah, and then you vibrate that, which is energy.
Full circle. Back to energy. Again, it's all energy. If you take nothing away from this today, it's all energy.
It's all energy.
So that's, wow. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. Energy in motion is emotion. And we're in New York City now recording this podcast. And you could walk down to the street and you will see a lot of emotions going on. I know I've personally been on a roller coaster of emotions lately. There's been a lot going on personally, professionally, and you just feel like you're on this wild ride. And I think what I want to make sure that people understand is that you don't have to stay on that ride.
No.
That is not part of being human. I mean, it is part of being human, but it's not a requirement to just feel like you're being dragged by the back of a bus. And I think a lot of people are in that place right now. The world is, this is why I'm doing this podcast. We've been through a lot the past couple years. Everything has changed for me. I can't speak for anybody else. I can only speak for my experience. I sit here today feeling like I got flipped upside down, 180 degrees different. And when you are able to understand this part of life, right? And this part of the universe, you're able to kind of zoom out a little bit and not be so caught up in every single thing that's happening around you. And you go down on the street, just see people reacting in emotion, right? And they don't know any different. And that's causing, again, so much denser, difficult energy for the collective. And I think that's a big narrative that I see now is just a lot of overreacting, a lot of people being distracted on purpose, just emotions running wild. And emotions aren't bad. But when you let those emotions and your ego and your mind just run your life is going to suck. Right. And I sit here as a person that, I mean, even yesterday I had like a really high morning and a really tough afternoon, but at least I was able to zoom out and understand and get back into my body, right? And breathe and connect and neutralize. That's really the goal. You know, it's not to sit around and be like, oh, everything's great, you know, ethereal, like energy.
Yes. No, that's not it.
That's not it.
As Dr. Joe says, we're all human. We're going to react. It's just how long do you choose to stay in it? And, you know, this goes to choice, back to choice again. Yep. But, you know, for the United States, our lives changed after 9/11.
Absolutely.
Nothing in our country has ever come close to that. And so the safety that we felt as Americans has definitely changed, and that can create a lot of emotions. Yeah. And how do you live in this world right now that we're in, but yet still want to feel safe?
Safety is huge right now. People are really dealing with insecurities around their relationships, money, home, food, like the basics.
Yes.
This is what, and there's a big astrological element to what I talk about on the podcast, and we're having the Pluto return of the United States of America right now. And again, planets, more energy, right? It's just more energy, and they have a lot of energy. So it really impacts every single person. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. You know, and look at what happened to New York, the death and the rebirth that happened post 9/11 and now post COVID.
COVID was the other.
You live here part-time, right? Thankfully, you also have a lovely place to live outside of the city, which is where I grew up and how we met. But think about all the death and rebirth, and Pluto is moving, and I don't know if you know this, it's moving from Capricorn to Aquarius. And Capricorn is structures, government, oppression, greed. That's the shadow side of Capricorn, to Aquarius, which is really like, let the sun shine in, age of Aquarius, the collective, you know, really coming back home to ourselves as opposed to like looking to others. Yes. Or, you know, trying to find peace outside of us. And that's why I think this topic, and I really wanted to do it early on in the episodes, is so important. It's probably the biggest part of the whole equation. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
So tell me, so obviously we know you had this horrific accident and just this very rapid awakening. You know, it doesn't happen that way for me. It certainly didn't happen that way for me. I'm sure there's listeners out there that have that experience. Prior to, let's call it 3 or 4 years ago, what do you think as far as energy is concerned? Like, what was your relationship with energy prior to, and maybe for you, it's 9/11, right? That was also a big time in, you know, the upheaval of a lot of things. You know, what do you see energetically as far as like the past is concerned? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
like, where did we come from with this topic? That's really,
I was going to go more into the shifting of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
And how what's happening really in the world is creating a lot of post-traumatic stress disorders in people, which can lead to a myriad of physical, emotional, mental, psychological, even spiritual
absolutely,
concerns.
Yep.
So how do you, we'll go back to the safety part, right?
Right.
How do you feel safe within yourself, experiencing all that's going on outside?
Yeah.
And I think the way they deal with that is to really, you need to come in, listen to your heart, slow down,
breathe.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We don't breathe well. And the planet isn't breathing well right now.
Yeah.
Breath is another topic we'll unpack for another episode. It's really important.
It is. So, be the change you want to see. And if you want to see a world where, there's love and happiness and peace and gratitude, gratitude is definitely a big one, then you need to be it. And so then the homework is not to look outside to all the destructions that are happening in front of us right now, but to keep going within, go within, go within. And I think that's where people will find safety.
Absolutely. Because if I think of, energy, safety, connection, all of those terms kind of work within, the same sort of framework. This is nothing that people were talking about 20 years ago. It was all, let me go find someone to help me with this, or I don't feel good. So, and with your nursing field, your husband's an MD, right? That's what people did.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden now, especially in the, we'll call it the last 5 years, it's like, wait a second, you have a physical symptom. Maybe it's not actually physical.
Exactly.
Right. And
Yes.
I think that that's been the interesting. Because like I even remember as a kid, right? You have headaches, or you have this, or you have something going on. It's like, all right, let's go and take a pill and let's do this. And, there's just these very specific protocols and ways to only deal with the physical self. And then when you've exhausted all of those and you still have problems, which I'm sure dealing with the accident and the trauma you went through.
Yep.
You went through you did all the check boxes.
I did all the check boxes.
And you still didn't feel good.
Exactly. Didn't feel good at all. And there's also the other extreme. I did all the energy work and I still didn't feel good.
Right. Because again,
too
concert.
much.
It's got to be together.
And energy is medicine, right? If you're going to acupuncture, all these things are energy.
Yep.
Move your energy. And if your body doesn't need it, then you will have a side effect of that energetic treatment.
Right.
So you also have to know what energetic treatments are good for you.
Yes, that's incredibly. And you taught me that because there's another side of, okay, we're going to go to all the doctors and we're going to take all the meds and we're going to have the surgeries or whatever. And sometimes that's fine. I'm not passing judgment.
Oh, no.
Many times that's needed. But then you could go to all the energy healers and do all the things on that side and be completely disconnected from your body. I had probably, it was like maybe 2018, 2017, breath work was really big, right? And especially here in New York City, there was all these people doing it at yoga studios. And I went to a breath work session and saw somebody flip the F out. Like I've never seen, it scared the shit out of me, quite frankly. I was like, what's happening? And she was completely split. Now knowing what I know now, and you had already planted that seed in my head, I was like, oh, this isn't physical. This isn't mental. And I think, again, this is another thing we can unpack, but mental illness is not always physical either.
Correct.
It can be energetic. And making sure that, again, you're following your heart with the treatments that you need and knowing when something is good to move forward with and knowing when something isn't good to move forward with and saying, you know what? That's not right for me. Even if you're in the middle of a session.
Yeah.
You know what? This doesn't feel right.
Right. And so then that's giving your power over to someone else. So we need to learn to listen to ourselves and have our own inner power. But let's talk about being split, because I don't know if everybody in the audience understand that. Being split is a disassociation. Yep. So if you have your physical body and energetically you leave your physical body. That is considered a split. And
what are the symptoms of that? Because I know for me, when I was split, I've suffered from anxiety most of my life. I've never been more anxious. I wasn't sleeping well. I felt shaky. I never felt hydrated. Like, is there other things that people can kind of think of, when they are disassociated? I guess it could be many things.
There's many things. It's
right.
just,
It's a plethora
yes.
things that can happen.
Yeah. And when you go to the doctor and he can't find anything on the physically that will help you still have the symptoms, that's maybe when it's time to look at your emotions, or then, seek energetic therapies. But then you need to know if that's really the right one for you before you delve into it.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, the energy doesn't lie. And I think the thing that I found the most is that little voice in your head, then once you really tap into this other realm, becomes the feeling in your body.
Yes.
And the feeling in your, like, truly my heart cavity, right? Like, I will know. And talk about safety. There's such a sense of safety on the other side of this, because I'm not afraid. Especially, I live in New York City. I don't have like a normal life, right? And you could walk down the street and, by the way, people, things are not as bad as they want you to think here. But anyway, that's a side note. But you feel protected because you're energetically and physically sound.
So you're energetically in your physical body. So basically what happens is, in the collective unconscious, there's a whole collective of all of us. When say your energy is outside of your body, you're feeling everybody's energy. You're feeling everything that's going on all around you. And it may not even belong to you. And there you are processing information that's not even yours. It doesn't even belong to you.
Yep.
And so the idea is, you have to pull your energy in your body right under your skin, so that when you feel something, it's you. Right. That it's not coming from the collective unconscious. And that's the point for today. That's why we're seeing everybody reacting, because they may be reacting to something that doesn't belong to them.
Chances are it doesn't belong to them.
Yeah.
And I always said to myself, like, living in New York was my dream. But I remember when I was really split, I was literally sucking up everything that I was encountering. And it is a really bad place to be.
Yes. And that, this is the old saying, can drive you to madness.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the mental health correlation when you're disassociated is, forget it. And I think what's important is, once somebody goes into this work and their path, everyone's path is different.
Yes.
You begin to have, the word you keep using, a better awareness of what's yours and what's not.
Yes.
And this is no more important than the people that are closest to us in our lives, the people we spend the most time with, right? Because you're comfortable with them, and it's not like walking down the street, right, and encountering a stranger. What can leak from people that, your partner, your spouse, your business partner, the person you work with and you see all day, right? That, again, just having that awareness and knowing when you need to take a moment and you need to reconnect and you need to go within and do all the things. And again, there's not a one size that fits all for everyone, but and we'll put some stuff in the show notes of, places that people can start to explore what works for them ultimately. But this is the way we get out of what we are in. Can't, right?
Yeah.
There sort of is no other way. People are constantly looking for the easy button. This is it.
There is no...
And everyone's responsible for themselves.
Yes, exactly. Be accountable for
free
yourself.
will.
Yeah.
It's part of the deal. So is there anything else that you think we should highlight as far as energy or energy work before we round out this beautiful time together today?
If anybody wants to start really, so we're talking about energy from a scientific perspective. That's what I wanted to say. There's spiritual aspect to all of this, but I needed the science because I'm a nurse and I know what I felt. The first book I read was Vibrational Medicine by Dr. Richard Gerber. Okay. It is amazing. If anybody wants to learn about energy and how it works, his book is phenomenal.
Okay.
If you want to learn how to get back into your body, and if you feel like you've had an energy illness, Christine Schenk, Schenk, will help. And the other thing on my path was, after my car accident, my friends, two of my friends passed away after that, and that were in the car with me. One immediately, one a couple of years later. That the self-guilt, survivor's guilt.
It's real.
And I'm sure a lot of war veterans feel that with war. The thought of killing another human being. I went to the University of Santa Monica. They have a master's degree in spiritual psychology, and it was all about self-forgiveness. So I can't underestimate also self-forgiveness for the path, for experiences that have happened in your life. There's, again, I felt victimized by it. But as I continue my journey, I realize that nothing that has happened to me was not for my better knowledge and growth. And that's part of self-forgiveness and accepting. Acceptance is another big thing in life. Accepting yourself, accepting maybe the circumstances you're in. I'm not saying to accept it and just lay down on the couch and watch TV.
Yeah.
But sometimes you physically, mentally, emotionally can do everything you want to get out of that situation, but you're not. And then I look at it as, okay, what is it that I'm to learn from this?
It's one big lesson that we're in right now
Mm-hmm.
on planet Earth.
Yes.
The planet of lessons.
And we're going to talk about the next lesson on the next podcast.
Yeah. Well, I want to finish with this question. And, before I do, I want to say how beautifully synchronized it is that you had that meditation this morning and had that amazing, beautiful, right on time, as everything is, revelation for yourself, and that you came forth and wanted to share that with me and all the listeners. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So I want to end every episode with a lot of hope, because you flip on the news, you talk to your neighbor, and it's just
complain.
Yeah, bitching, complaining, stress, distractions, scrolling and panic and all of that. As far as energy is concerned, what are your hopes in the future with our collective when it relates to energy? What do you want to see more of? If you could have your little magic wand.
Really would like people to feel inner peace. Inner peace, self-love.
Through this work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it can be done.
Yep.
You have to believe.
Yeah.
I never stopped believing that I would not heal myself and understand and get that energy that I experience out of myself, cells, to be on a path of the life I want to create. But I have not even created my life yet, because I was so busy taking the time trying to get out of chronic pain,
right.
Trying to, because
you've been in it.
Because it's a tapestry, physically you feel this, you heal that. Then emotionally you feel this, you have to then go to, talk about it, go to a therapist. Then you have to spiritually, ask God what's going on. And then it takes so long to weave that tapestry of your inner self. It's really finding yourself. It
Absolutely.
Takes time, it takes energy, it takes perseverance. But I knew I was going to arrive there. And it could happen in an instance, or it may take a journey. And it's okay. Just accept where you are in the moment.
And keep going.
Yeah. And it's always about being in the moment.
Yeah. And presence is
a present.
So important.
The presence is a present.
It so is. That's beautiful. I mean, I couldn't agree with everything that you said more. And I do feel that, I don't know, I mean, maybe this is Pollyanna, but I do feel like there are better days ahead. And all of these, like, you know, what people call cheesy sayings, like it's always darkest before dawn, and, you know, all of those things, like things are dark right now, but they don't have to be. And we get to choose and stay on the path. If you're not on the path, begin. If you're on the path, keep going. I'm never going to give up. And humans are incredibly resilient. It's part of our DNA as human beings. And again, finding what works for you, and we'll throw some things in the show notes, and hopefully that will help some folks. But
we're all part of the whole.
We are.
And if you want the whole to change, you need to change within yourself. Yeah. If you want this destruction that we're seeing in this universe as a collective, the way you begin is doing it within yourself, because you as a part will affect the whole.
Absolutely. And we're made to feel that we don't have agency or that we can't change the world. That's just the collective narrative that's existed. And that is just categorically untrue.
You know, there's that monkey syndrome where, you know, one monkey started, another monkey. If everybody starts this collective consciousness of wanting, you know, a change for themselves towards love and peace, then each person that does it more and more and more, and then eventually the energy shifts.
Yeah. And that's how we change the world. Easy.
How we change the world.
Snap. Just kidding. Well, I can't thank you enough for today. This was so special. And I know that this is something I'm going to listen to in the future. And there's, I think so many people are going to be touched by your story, and, you know, everything that you've learned and that you're able to share with us is just beautiful. And for the listeners out there, you know, energy in the space between, it's incredibly important. And with the intention of connecting back to yourself, Christina has shared so many beautiful ways that she has found herself through this work. And we wish that for you.
We do.
Thank you so much, everyone. We look forward to seeing you in the space between soon. Thank you so much for joining us in the space between. We hope this conversation sparked connection for you. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who will find value. And make sure to tune into our next episode as we continue the journey into the core themes of our lives. We'll see you again in the space between.